Wow, well, it's been a while, hasn't it? So long, in fact, that my last video was the review for the season finale of The Flash Season 7, and now I'm coming back to review the season premiere of The Flash Season 8 and the beginning of Armageddon. This is crazy. It's been so long that I haven't even spoken about Armageddon. I haven't made a video about Armageddon. I haven't made a video since the season finale of The Flash Season 7. Yeah, it's been quite a while, isn't it? So welcome back to DC Central, guys. If you don't remember me, my name is Deck, and of course I am the host of DC Central. Yeah, as I said in the intro, been quite a long time since I made a video, but given the fact that The Flash Season 8 has kicked off today with the new crossover event Armageddon, I thought now seems as good of a time as any to actually go ahead and start reviewing The Flash again. I'm not making any promises in regards to how consistent I'm going to be, because it is difficult with me with YouTube at the moment, with both of my channels. If you're a viewer of both, I'm sure you've noticed. So I'm going to try my best to at least get through Armageddon and then kind of see where we're at. But I thought, it's the start of a new season of The Flash. It's a very important season, and, we're going in straight away with a crossover event. So this is a pretty big deal. Of course, for the Arrowverse, this is the first crossover we've had since Crisis on Infinite Earths, minus the sort of Diggle appearances we got last season. So Armageddon, my quick thoughts on Armageddon. I thought it's such a cool idea. Like, it's a really great idea to kind of kick off a season of The Flash with Armageddon. I think that's just a really cool idea. And on top of that, the kind of range of characters that they're bringing in for this crossover event are very different and also very new as well. Obviously, we're getting characters like Black Lightning showing up, we're getting Alex Danvers showing up, we're getting Ray Palmer, of course, in this episode, who we've not seen since sort of the back half of Season 5 of Legends. And even Mia Queen from Arrow is coming into this crossover event at some point. Ryan Choi is coming back. So there's a lot of really cool characters that we know are coming back in this crossover event, and there's also a lot of really cool storylines that have been teased for this event that I'm really excited to see play out. So Armageddon looks really exciting so far, but how was the first episode? Well, let's just dive straight in. So the episode does open up with Despero, who is our main antagonist for this crossover event, in 2031, and we see him played by Tony Curran, and he is basically surrounded by all this chaos and carnage going on around him, and there's no context beyond it. We don't know anything about it. It's just kind of this scene to kind of kick us off and kind of get our brains ticking over. We then move into a scene with Iris, who has now launched a brand new podcast alongside Central City Citizen, which has now grown and expanded exponentially since we last saw it, and is now like a fully fledged news network within Central City. We also do notice as well, Candice Patton now has red, very prominent red tinges in her hair, making her a lot more in line with her comic book counterpart of Iris West. But what was also interesting was obviously seeing Central City Citizen developed and grown so much within the past year. It's really developed into, like I say, a fully fledged, legit news network that is kind of competing with other huge networks within the city. And I thought this was great. Like, this looks really good because we get a brand new set as well. We haven't had a new set on The Flash for quite a while. So seeing this brand new set, this big office building, was really, really nice. And also, I like the idea of Iris doing a podcast because it kind of modernizes the Iris West character, especially from the journalism aspect. Podcasting and sort of digital media is, the way journalism is now. So to see them kind of incorporate that into The Flash and with Iris's work, I think is really interesting. My only negative with it is, I wish we would have seen this grow over this season. I think it's a bit annoying that we've kind of come into this season straight away, and Iris just has this all set up instantly. Again, it's cool to see, and I like seeing that transition, but I would have liked to have seen that transition longer. I would have liked to have seen that perhaps grow throughout this season and see the Central City Citizen grow with Iris throughout the season. I think that would have been really cool to see. But, for what we got, I still really love the fact that this has grown in such a cool way. Now, of course, the big surprise guest we had, or, well, not really a surprise guest, but the big guest we had for this episode was Brandon Routh returning as Ray Palmer, and I just love this guy. I love Brandon Routh. I love Ray Palmer. He's honestly a top tier Arrowverse character for me. So when I heard he was coming back for this crossover event, I was so excited. And just seeing his face at Barry and Iris' door, with his big beaming smile, it just filled your heart with joy. Like, he's such a wholesome, great character in this universe. And I loved having Ray there because not only does he fit really well onto Team Flash, like I think Ray, obviously he was an Arrow character originally, but I think he has always fitted really well on the Flash when he has gone on there and interacted with Flash characters. He seems to actually be the best fit for Flash. I mean, he was really good on Arrow, but I think, you know, he does fit really well onto the Flash. But I just loved all of his references as well, because he references Nora and the other Legends as well, which is really cool. And what was quite interesting is there is a line where he talks about it was very, very difficult for him leaving the Legends, which almost felt like a meta line, because we do know that Brandon Routh wasn't exactly happy with how his character was written off the show and how he didn't really want to leave and stuff like that. So it is interesting because it kind of felt like a meta kind of wink to the audience, because I think everyone kind of knows that Brandon Routh wasn't happy with his exit from the Arrowverse, but it's great to have him back for this episode. I'm not sure if he's going to come back for any following episodes. I feel like he should, because of Ryan Choi coming back into it. I feel like there should be something there between them. And he did say, you know, I'm just a call away sort of thing. So maybe we'll see him again, maybe we won't, but it's still great to have him in this. And I absolutely adore this character, and I adore Brandon Routh in the role. So it was great to have him back. Now, a villain we had introduced in this, or villains that we had introduced, was the Royal Flush Gang, who make their grand return to the Arrowverse. Now, this is actually a very different version of the Royal Flush Gang from what we saw back in The Flash Season 1 and also in Arrow Season 1. This is a completely different version, completely new actors, completely new group, and what was different about these ones, which made them a lot more suited to The Flash, was that they were actually metahumans. Unlike the versions on Arrow, which were just simple kind of bank robbers, these guys were actual metahumans who were doing these kind of horrendous crimes, which I think, you know, it made it fit better. I do question, you know, where these guys came from and kind of, you know, why they're different from this previous version. I guess probably Crisis probably has something to do with it. That's kind of the easiest way to explain away everything now. But still cool to have a version of the Royal Flush Gang, and I really enjoyed their fight with the Flash. You know, the way that Barry was able to use Flash Time to kind of turn them all against each other. And I like the fact, you know, you have kind of the queen of the group who has her power of, you know, being able to read minds and kind of predict. Like, she knows what you're going to do before you do it. But because Barry has the speed, you know, the speed thinking, you know, he can think at the speed of light, it doesn't affect him, and I thought that was really cool. So it was a cool little fight and cool little villains kind of have within this episode. Now, a big setting in this episode is the Central City Tech Convention. Now, we kind of saw this in the promo photos for this episode, and we knew this is where Ray was mostly going to be. So we do get to see that, and it's kind of cool to actually have like a tech convention, because it does kind of make sense that Star Labs would have like a booth within a tech convention within Central City. Like, they are such a leading kind of market within you know, the kind of tech space. It would make sense they would be there. So you have Chester P. Runk there, who's kind of running all that, and then you've got Ray there, who's kind of like an honorary guest. And I really enjoyed all these scenes because we got a really great chat between Ray and Barry, where, you know, they're kind of talking about their differences and how Ray has kind of moved on, because Ray feels like he's matured a bit since we've last seen him. You know, he's not really bothered about being a hero anymore. He doesn't really want to invest in many companies now. He kind of just focuses on himself and his life with Nora. So it was kind of a nice little conversation between them and Barry, between Ray and Barry. And then we also got him being interviewed by Iris as well, which kind of, they were kind of hinting at what his future was and stuff like that, but they don't really give a specific direct answer, probably because they don't know what the future for Ray is at this point. If he's even going to show up again, we'll have to wait and see. But still, cool to have him out and about. But this is where we actually get our first proper introduction to Tony Curran as Despero. And Despero shows up, he's coming after the Flash, and he wants to kill the Flash. He specifically says that. He says, I want to kill you. But why is that? We'll kind of dive into that in a little bit. But we do also get our very first look at Despero in his human form here properly. And I like the human form for him. You know, I think Tony Curran, especially with like the hair and the facial hair, it looks really cool. It's quite a distinct look for him, and I like the costume as well. It's quite unique. And it's just kind of a fun little interaction at first, because Barry is obviously very cocky, very hands-on, and Barry's quite confident in this episode, which is I quite like. We haven't seen that in a while from Barry. He's very, very confident within this episode. And that's kind of fun to see. So seeing him kind of go toe-to-toe with Despero before he really knows who he is, I thought was quite fun. And this is where we're actually introduced to Despero's alien form, because if you know Despero from the comics, you know he is kind of this big purple alien guy. And we were all wondering, you know, if we were going to see that. I think we all knew we were going to see it, but we actually got our first proper look here. And I have to say, it doesn't look half bad. I was pretty impressed. You know, given the fact that this is the Arrowverse, and when you look at like the Flash last season with Fueza, who just did not look good at all, by comparison, Despero looks great. I mean, granted, it doesn't look amazing. I'm not saying, this is Thanos or anything, but given the fact that this is the CW and the budget that they have, it looks pretty damn good. I was pretty impressed. I think this is one of the best CGI models that the Arrowverse has had. It genuinely looks pretty good, and it doesn't stand out in the scene too much. And it's really cool. And we get to see the third eye as well. That's there. So he's about like 10 feet tall or something. But he's really cool though. He's really cool looking, and again, it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. I was really expecting it to be a really rough CGI design because we haven't seen it before this episode. Like, they haven't revealed it, so I thought if they're not showing it, it's not going to be good. But there it was, and it looks pretty decent. So, I'm sure we're probably not going to get loads of it throughout this crossover event because I'm sure it is very expensive. We'll probably get it in this episode and then probably the last episode. But still, it's cool we actually got our first proper look at it, so we're not waiting until the very last episode to actually finally get the alien reveal. And this is where we do get our first proper fight scene in the episode between Ray and Barry fighting Despero. We kind of have Ray, who's been talking about, obviously, he doesn't really want to be the Atom anymore, he doesn't really want to be a hero now, he doesn't consider himself a legend anymore. But because, obviously, there's people in danger, Barry's there, he's like, okay, I'll put on the Atom suit. So we do get to see Ray actually suit up as the Atom once more. And it was a really great fight because we actually got to see Barry and Ray use their powers, with each other. Particularly, we get to see Ray hold on to Barry and shrink him with him, which is something we've never seen before, I don't believe. I don't think that was ever on Legends, where Ray is able to shrink someone else with him, which was really, really cool. And then we have this funny moment where Barry kind of comes back to his normal size, and we actually get a reference to Diggle. He actually says, now I know how Diggle feels, which I thought was really cool. Not only just to get a reference to Diggle, but it is a bit of payback for Barry on that stage. But I really enjoyed all that, and watching Barry kind of create a duplicate of himself to try and take out Despero, to try and confuse him. And then you have Ray kind of working on the teleportation device at the same time. It was a really cool fight scene. And I just thought as well, when, he's finally able to, he has Barry at point, Despero finally kind of explains why he wants to kill him, which is in his future, where Despero is from, the Flash is a bad guy, and he's trying to destroy the world. It's very vague in this episode exactly what Barry has done or what he's going to do. But basically he's saying he's a bad guy in the future. He's come back to stop him so that the world that he is from isn't destroyed. Or the future that he is from isn't destroyed. So I'm sure we'll find out over the next couple of episodes exactly what it is that Barry is doing. This does kind of line up with some of the set photos we've seen of Barry kind of in a yellow Flash costume, or maybe potentially a reverse Flash costume. And obviously we do know that reverse Flash is in this crossover as well. So there's clearly something going on with like an evil version of Barry. We're just waiting to see exactly what that is. And there is a team meeting at the end of the episode as well, which I really enjoyed because it's just kind of a nice little catch-up on everything. But what was really cool about it was they're discussing, who is this Despero, how do we beat him? And Ray comes up with the idea of, if we find out exactly what type of alien it is, we'll be able to find his weakness, kind of like with a Kryptonite and Kryptonian. And that's when we actually get a reference to Alex Danvers. Caitlin says, I'll get in contact with Alex in National City. So does this mean Alex is in the next episode? I'm not too sure. I don't know if we know which episodes which characters are appearing in. I've been a little bit more out of the loop than usual. So I'm guessing perhaps this means Alex will show up in the next episode, because we do know Alex is in this, as Sentinel, which is going to be really cool given the fact that Supergirl has ended. So this is going to be the first appearance of a Supergirl character since the show has ended. I actually haven't seen all of Supergirl yet because I'm watching it sort of in line with the UK. So we're currently on about episode 19, I think, or at 18. So we've only got a couple more left. But it is still cool that given the fact that Supergirl has ended, this is going to be Alex Danvers' first appearance in the Arrowverse post the end of Supergirl, which I think is really, really cool. So we should see her in the next episode, hopefully. And then we have the ending scene of the episode with Barry and Despero, where they kind of come to this idea where Barry's like, look, I need to convince this guy that I'm not evil, so he can just leave me alone and just go away, kind of show him that he's wrong. And we kind of get this really great scene between Grant Gustin and Tony Curran, and I have to say, Tony Curran is awesome in this role. He's really good, he's really intimidating, genuinely quite scary, has quite a presence to him, and the way he's kind of talking to Barry, and the way that Barry's talking back to him, I quite enjoy their dynamic. It's quite back and forth because, even Tony Curran as Despero, he's like, I'm impressed by your confidence, I'm impressed by your boldness, and Barry's like, look, let me prove to you that I'm not who you think I am, and then you can leave us alone. And I quite like this dynamic because, you know, Despero says, you know, I'm giving you 7 days. And if by the end of the 7 days I'm not convinced, I'm still going to kill you. So it's kind of interesting, and I think it's cool that Despero, in a way, almost sees himself as the hero of his own story. Like, he's come to this time to stop Barry so he can save his future. I think that's quite interesting, because it makes Despero, who is kind of like this big alien, seem like not so much of a bad guy, because normally a bad guy like that would be just pure evil. But this guy maybe isn't. I think that's quite interesting. He could be lying as well. He could be lying. It could be completely nothing. It could be, you know, this threat that he's talking about has absolutely nothing to do with Barry and nothing to do with the Flash. But still, I think it's really awesome. Barry does reveal himself to Despero, like, straight away, which I think is interesting and kind of annoying, because he reveals himself to just bloody everyone now. But he literally does take his cowl off and is like, yeah, my name's Barry Allen, you can trust me. So yeah, I mean, Despero knows who he is, but I guess that was probably going to happen at some point anyway. Now, final point to talk about in this episode, I've seen people bring this up online, and it definitely sparked my interest when I watched the episode. Is Joe dead? Because Joe isn't in this episode, he's not referenced, but we do have a moment where Chester says something about the dead, and then says to Cecile straight away, oh, I'm really sorry, I shouldn't have said that, like, bad choice of words. What's going on there? Like, I'm really worried now, because if they have killed Joe off screen, I am going to be pissed. Like, Joe is such a big character on the show. He's been a part of it for, you know, since the pilot. He's like the heart and the soul of this show. And he's such an important character. If you have killed him off, just in between the season, and we're just going to find that out sort of partway through this event, I am not going to be happy. And, you know, maybe it was something that was out of their control. Maybe Jesse L. Martin just couldn't come back or something. And he basically said, I'm never coming back. You know, we don't know what's happened yet. It might not be anything to do with Joe. It's just the most plausible theory because, you know, why would Cecile act like that? You know, we don't, you know, it's not like anything happened last season where someone close to Cecile had died. I mean, Cecile did go through a bit of trauma last season, but it doesn't really line up with that. So, is Joe dead? I mean, he could be. I mean, I've always personally thought Joe would be a character they would kill on this show. To be honest, I'm surprised he's lasted this long. I thought he'd be a character they'd kill kind of early on in the show. I was kind of predicting, back when I was reviewing The Flash in like season 3, I was saying they were probably going to kill Joe then. But he's still around now. I just think if they've killed Joe off screen, that's just a really unceremonious, really heartless way to kill a character that is so beloved by the fans. And I would be really sad if that's how Joe went out. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. Again, it might be nothing. It's just something that popped up in the episode that felt really random, and everyone else is picking up on it. And I think a lot of people are running with the idea that perhaps Joe's dead now, which I think would just be horrendous, to be honest. But we'll have to wait and see. So overall, this first episode of Armageddon and the first episode of The Flash Season 8, I loved it. This was such a great episode. Really great way to kick off not only this season, but this brand new crossover event. And it feels really good to kind of get back into this because, you know, it's been a while since we've had a crossover, and it's been a while since we've had kind of an Arrowverse-centric episode like this, where we're pulling in different elements from the different shows, we're getting references to different characters. Obviously, we have Ray showing up, and a brand new, huge threat villain like Despero. It just feels good to be back in this kind of space, so I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really solid, really good, and this is like instantly way better than like 99% of the stuff we got in Season 7, which, I mean, I didn't do a full review of Season 7, I didn't do a ranking, but I personally think Season 7 is probably the worst season of The Flash. So to get something so good like this to go into the new season, it's a great start. But what did you guys think about this episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What did you think about it? What are your theories for the rest of Armageddon? Just tell me everything down in the comments down below. And if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any uploads from me. And I hope to see you guys again next time.